Hey there, and welcome to this brief video introduction to using the AWWA free water audit software. This video was prepared for water utilities taking their first step in establishing a cost-effective water loss management strategy. It'll cover the basic information that goes into the water audit software and help those first-time users navigate their way through the tool. This video does presume that you have some background knowledge of the AWWA M36 methodology for water auditing and loss control programs, but that's certainly not a prerequisite. If you have questions, you can contact us later or leave comments to the video below. Let's get started. So what is the water audit software anyway? Well, it's a tool to examine the accuracy of water utility data, records, accounts, policies, and practices regarding the volumes of water that are moved from source to treatment to distribution and customer consumption, ultimately distinguishing volumes reaching customers from volumes of loss. The tool is founded upon the principles of the AWWA M36 water audit methodology. Now, the water audit software is the industry standard when it comes to quantifying water losses. As its name suggests, it is free and easy to use and access. Overall, there are 20 potential inputs into the water audit software, but on average, most utilities use about 10 or 11 of these inputs. If you haven't obtained a copy of the water audit software of your own, just go to awwa.org/waterlosscontrol. Enter your name and email address, and you'll receive an email with a downloadable link to obtain your copy of the water audit software. In this video, we'll walk through the core sections of the water audit and some of the data sources for the top-down water audit, and then give a brief demonstration of the tool. The water audit software is a tool that helps create your water balance, shown here. The water balance is the summary of key water audit data that shows water management from source to customer, with the sum of quantities in all columns equal and thus balanced. The standard water balance, shown here moving from left to right, will use the tool to help estimate our water losses through known and estimated volumes in our water balance. The key sections of the water balance are water supplied, authorized consumption, our water losses, and then ultimately calculating our non-revenue water. Now, non-revenue water is the water supplied to the distribution system, but which no revenue is generated. Non-revenue water includes unbilled authorized consumption, apparent losses, and real losses. Now we'll take a look at each one of those components of the water audit software as it's shown in the reporting worksheet of the water audit software. First is our water supplied. Our water supplied is the volume of treated water supplied to the retail water distribution system of a utility with the intent to serve customers. It does not include bulk water exports, and therefore water supplied is calculated by subtracting water exported from system input volume. Another input volume that may be included in the water supplied is any imported volumes for purchased water. Authorized consumption is the next core component of our water audit. This is the volume of water taken by registered consumers, including our residential customers, industrial, commercial, potable irrigation, and agricultural users, and the utility itself. Water used for firefighting and infrastructure maintenance is also included in authorized consumption. Authorization of use can be explicit or implicit. Authorized consumption is categorized as either billed or unbilled and metered or unmetered. Our water losses are calculated by taking the difference of our water supplied and our authorized consumption. And they are broken up into two different types of losses: apparent losses and real losses. Apparent losses are the volume of water that reaches consumers but is not properly accounted for due to inaccurate metering, systematic data handling errors, and unauthorized consumption, otherwise known as theft. Apparent losses are sometimes referred to as paper losses. Real losses are the volume of water that is physically lost from the system due to leakage and unintentional tank overflow. Leakage can occur on distribution and trunk mains, service connections, fire hydrants, valves, and storage reservoirs. In component analysis, real losses are further classified as reported, unreported, and background leakage. Through the process of elimination and referring back to our water balance, after quantifying our apparent losses, real losses are basically what's left over with the difference of our water losses and apparent losses. In order for our outputs in our water audit data to be calculated, we do need to input some infrastructure data, known as the system data in the water audit software. Here, we're plugging in data from miles of main, our number of service connections, and the average operating pressure in our system. Finally, we have the cost data. Now, we experience different types of losses in our system, and therefore some of these losses are valued differently. Our apparent losses are valued using what's known as the customer retail unit cost, and our real losses are valued using our variable production cost. Said another way, the cost to produce one additional unit of water. Now, let's take a look at the software and do a brief demonstration using the software. So here we have the water audit software. So when you download a copy for yourself, this is what you'll see. And you'll notice right away that although this is referred to as the water audit software, it is in fact an Excel spreadsheet. So no new fancy software to learn here. It's in a familiar format, but it does have some really good tools under the hood. You'll also notice the familiar Excel tabs down at the bottom to help navigate your way around the software. Although there are some buttons to help facilitate that as well. It's important to note that since this is in an Excel file format, it's subject to your typical file management. In other words, it can be overwritten and deleted. What we have up now is the Instructions tab. This is a collection of the specific utility information. Additionally, some of the standard reporting parameters are indicated here, such as our reporting year, as well as our volumetric reporting units. For reporting year, we have calendar year 2017 entered in, and for our volumetric reporting units, we have acre feet. Now, just a tip here, if you enter all of your data, for example, in acre feet, and then later decide you'd rather do it in million gallons, just changing the units here will not convert all of the units, the volumetric units that you've input into the software. So just be mindful of that. Over here, we have a legend Some of the cells are color-coded that we'll see in our reporting worksheet. The white cells are areas where we need to input some of our volumes and values into the water audit software. The yellow cells are going to indicate cells that are auto-calculated based on previous inputs. And then there are a handful of these gray cells, and these indicate areas where there are default values for some of those areas where it is difficult to quantify some of the volumes. The reporting sheet is where the remaining input of your utility-specific information will go and where we will primarily interact with the software. The remaining tabs provide output data and helpful resources such as definitions and diagrams. Again, the white cells are fields where input is provided. Yellow cells are auto-calculated based on previous inputs, and gray cells indicate default options. You'll also notice that some of the information we entered from the Instructions tab has been populated onto the reporting sheet, such as the name of the utility, the reporting year, and the volumetric units that we're reporting in. The display of the information is something we're all used to seeing in Excel files, like comment boxes, drop-down menus, and different buttons linking to other pages. The center of the reporting worksheet is where the input volumes and values are entered. Most of these are direct inputs indicated in the white cells, and there are 20 potential inputs, but again, typically 10 inputs that we typically see utilities using on average. Directly to the left of the input fields is a small box where you'll see a drop-down menu from numbers 1 to 10. These are individual data validity grades, which help us understand the reliability of the data based on the practices and policies within our system. Hovering over this box displays criteria unique to the specific input, providing a matrix of practices and policies to choose from. The criteria is also displayed on the Grading Matrix tab down below. Continuing over to the left, you see two blue buttons. The question mark button will take you to a definition of the input on that line. It will take us to the Definitions tab and highlight the definition of interest. And for ease of navigation, you can select the Find button to go back to your previous place on the reporting worksheet. The plus button will take us to a Comments tab. Here, the team putting together the water audit are encouraged to capture notes that will be both helpful to the staff working on future year audits, as well as anyone who may be validating their water audit. Comments might include source of the input data, utility staff who normally help provide the data, and any practices or policies relevant to the data validity grade. Clicking on the input link will take you back to the previous place on the reporting worksheet. On the right-hand side of our screen, we'll see that some inputs allow the option to enter as a percentage or a volume, such as the master meter and supply error adjustments, unbilled, unmetered, authorized consumption, and our apparent losses and systematic data handling errors. At the bottom of the reporting worksheet, an overall data validity score is calculated for audits where all inputs and applicable data validity grades have been selected. The data validity score is a measure of the overall reliability in the data entered. It is a composite value calculated from the individual data validity grade values. And finally, the water audit will identify some priority areas of attention. These serve as a guide to the user of the most important areas needing data validity improvement. The Performance Indicators tab is one of the areas that displays the output data of our water audit. This will show you some of the key performance indicators in the water audit software, and some examples are showing our water losses not only in terms of how much we're losing annually, but also how much it's costing us annually. As we saw earlier, our water balance is created based on the inputs in the reporting worksheet. So we can now start to see the water balance with the volumes assigned for each component, further demonstrating our mass balance concept. The Dashboard tab gives us a visual representation of both our water balance and our non-revenue water. On the left side, we see a vertical representation of our water balance. Over to the right, we can see a graphical representation of our non-revenue water, and we can toggle back and forth to show this in terms of volume and also value. There are many other tabs here in the water audit software that are helpful resources, and we encourage you to explore those on your own. I hope this has been a helpful video in assisting in your water auditing efforts. Thanks for viewing the video. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below, or you can contact us at the information provided. Thanks, and have a great day.